Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Lincoln City Council meeting for Monday, November 25th. And I'd like to invite everyone to please rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance with us, and then followed by a moment of silent meditation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. In accordance with LB 898, a copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted at the back of the chamber. And this evening tonight, we will be focusing on the Board of Equalization to talk about the business improvement districts. And I believe first item of business, Teresa, is that we have to have the election of a chair.
I move that Jane Rabel be the chair of the Board of Equalization.
Second.
Are there any other nominations? Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Job?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Motion carried, 7-0.
So we're going to be talking about the Downtown and West Haymarket Business Improvement District in accordance with LB 898. A copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted at the back of the chamber by the northwest door. Each year, the Lincoln City Council passes a number of improvement district ordinances. Today, we are here to silence my phone. Today, we are here to equalize the assessments for several such districts: the Downtown Core Management, the Downtown Maintenance, the Downtown Management, and the West Haymarket/Downtown Maintenance Business Improvement Districts. These districts encompass the management activities performed through and contracted by the Downtown Lincoln Association. Once these projects have been completed, the cost is paid by the city through its special assessment revolving fund. It is then necessary for the city to recoup its costs from the benefited property owners and reimburse its revolving fund. These costs or assessments are computed by the Urban Development Department and presented to the City Council for its review when sitting as the Board of Equalization, as we are now.
Yay.
The clerk will read a description of each district into the record. Then a representative from the Urban Development Department will come forward and make a brief statement about the districts. After that, anyone wishing to make a statement may come forward. Please state your name, address before making any comments. All right, Teresa.
All right. The districts are Downtown Core Management, generally bounded by N Street on the south and Pinnacle Arena Drive on the west, thence north and northeasterly along Pinnacle Arena Drive to 8th Street, thence south along 8th Street to S Street, thence east along S Street to 9th Street, south along 9th Street to Q Street, east along Q Street to 10th Street, thence north along 10th Street to a point approximately mid-block between Q Street and R Street, east along said mid-block point to 14th Street, south along 14th Street to Q Street, east along Q Street to Centennial Mall, south along Centennial Mall to M Street, west along M Street to 13th Street, south along 13th Street to L Street, west along L Street to 12th Street, north along 12th Street to M Street, west along M Street to 9th Street, north along 9th Street to N Street, and west along N Street to Pinnacle Arena Drive. Downtown Maintenance is extending from 7th Street on the west to 17th Street on the east, and from R Street on the north to M Street on the south, including the properties abutting on the west side of 7th Street from N to R Street, the east side of 17th Street from Q Street to M Street, the north side of R Street from 7th to 10th, south side of M Street from 8th to 17th, and both sides of 13th Street from N to Lincoln Mall and all of Cornhusker Square. Downtown Management is generally bounded by N Street on the south, Pinnacle Arena Drive on the west, north and northeasterly along Pinnacle Arena Drive to the 9th Street, southeasterly along 9th Street and I-180 to a point approximately mid-block between R Street and Q Street, east along said midpoint to 14th Street, south along 14th Street to Q Street, east along Q Street to 17th Street, south along 17th to K Street, west along K Street to 14th, south along 14th Street to a point approximately mid-block between Lincoln Mall and H Street, west along said mid-block point to 10th Street, south along 10th Street to K Street, west along K Street to 8th Street, north along 8th Street to N Street, and west along N Street to Pinnacle Arena Drive. West Haymarket is generally located along the west line of Outlot C, West Haymarket Addition, from approximately K Street on the south, north to N Street, and continuing north along the center line of Pinnacle Arena Drive to approximately 9th and 10th Streets, south to R Street, west to 7th Street, south to O Street, east to 8th Street, south to the alley, south of N Street, and west to the east line of Outlot C, West Haymarket Addition.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Ron Kane with the Urban Development Department, and I'm the staff person that prepared the proposed assessments before you this evening. They are based on expenditures occurred between September 1 of 2018 to August 31 of 2019. And I'm here to answer any questions you may have on how I calculated the assessments.
Are there any questions for Ron? Do you want to just do a brief, summary so that the viewing audience knows? How do you calculate the assessments?
Well, the management, I basically have to look at the map and then go through to make sure all of the parcels are included as I do the review, to make sure that everything is included that's supposed to be included. And then for the main management district, it's based on valuation, total valuation within the district, whereas the maintenance districts are based on basically street frontage of the parcels. And then I divide those into the total cost to be assessed to calculate my rates.
Terrific. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Would you do those dates again, Mr. Kane? September 1st through August 31st, is that what it was? Or
I'm sorry?
the dates the assessment period ran? September 1st through, I'm
August
sorry.
30, yeah, September 1 to August 31.
I didn't hear August 31 for some reason. I heard something different. Thank you.
Terrific. Is there anyone else that would like to testify on this matter? DLA or no?
Hello, Council. Todd Ogden, President of Downtown Lincoln Association, 206 South 13th Street, Suite 101. I don't have anything major to say, just we had, this is based on the 2018-19 fiscal year that we had starting September 1, and felt it was a positive year for downtown and hope to keep moving forward, and here to answer any questions you may have.
Todd, how many years have we been, have the business improvement districts been approved?
Our organization started in 1967. The first maintenance BID was 1978, and the first management BID was 1989.
So these have been enforced for quite a number of years.
Yes.
Terrific. Are there any questions for Mr. Ogden? Seeing none, thank you very much. Last call for, is there anyone else in the audience that would like to testify on this item? Seeing none, I believe we can vote on these items.
Take a motion to approve the assessments?
I move approval of the assessments.
Second.
Moved to approve by Christensen, seconded by McGinnis. Any questions or thoughts? Please call the roll.
Schob,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Raybold.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
Madam Chair, I move adjournment sine die.
Second.
Adjournment introduced by Christensen, seconded by McGinnis. Please call the roll.
Schob,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Raybold.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
We will now enter in our regular agenda for the Lincoln City Council for Monday, November 25th. And I understand that we have 2 Boy Scouts in the audience. Do you mind standing and being recognized? And please tell us the troop that you represent. Did you say Troop 364?
263.
Oh, 263. And you're here to earn what type of badge? Communications. Well, welcome. Thank you both for coming. All right, Teresa, we'll just go on right to the regular agenda then.
Okay. Our public hearing consent agenda is items 1 through 3.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to testify on these items? Seeing none?
Okay. Items 1A through C were introduced by McGinnis.
So moved.
Second.
Introduced by McGinnis, seconded by Washington. Any discussion?
I just want to say one thing. I saw that Patty Newman's name was on here. Patty Newman was a city council person for Northeast Lincoln, and she did an excellent job representing Northeast Lincoln. And I'm a big supporter of Patty Newman, and so I'm happy that she is going to be reappointed to the Charter Revision Commission.
Thank you very much. Any other discussion?
You're not going to say how happy you are that I'm going to be on the Performance Audit Committee?
I'm happy about that too. I want to make Patty Newman proud in everything I do. So
All thrilled. Okay, let's call the roll.
Joe,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Bowers,
yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
and Raybold.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Items 2A and B were introduced by Shob.
So moved.
Second.
Introduced by Shob, seconded by McGinnis. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Shob,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Raybold.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Before we continue on, I do want to make the announcement that due to the Thanksgiving holiday, City Council will not meet next Monday, December 2nd. And you'll notice the recognition of Keno board member on our agenda. That is going to be rescheduled to December 9th. Next then, our public hearing liquor resolutions. Those giving testimony are asked to come forward and raise their right hand for the clerk to administer the oath. After the oath, witnesses shall state their names and addresses. I'll call 4A and B together. They are the application of Tanner's Bar and Grill for a Class I liquor license at 8600 South 30th Street, Suite 100, and the related manager application of Brett Clear. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth as you really believe it to be?
I do.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the council. My name is Sean Kelly, 2804 South 87th Avenue, Omaha, Nebraska, appearing today on behalf of Tanner's Bar and Grill. This is the same, it's the same Tanner's. It will continue to be a Tanner's. It's just a corporate restructure. It's been there since 2013, so no change in business operation or anything like that. In fact, the lead shareholder now has been there the whole time. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions?
Yes, I do. Just 1 second. So will you be holding the license?
Me personally?
Yes.
No. I'm a representative of.
Right. So I've not had one of the hearings where the representative comes forward and not the person actually holding the license. I'm sure it's done. I just used to seeing the applicant themselves standing here. And I was just curious a little bit about their background. I've seen some violations in their background. I wanted to have a understanding of how they're going to move forward.
Sure. So if I may answer that question on their behalf, certainly there is a DUI, which would be the most serious offense in that criminal history of the applicant. Mm-hmm. But aside from that, and not condoning anything else that is traffic violations in his record, he's shown to be an outstanding holder of a liquor license. If you look at this location, there's been no violations since 2013. If you look at the licenses, he's involved with all licenses in good standing, not only in Nebraska, but in Iowa as well. So he's proven himself to be a good operator. We've represented Tanner's for some time. We've never had a show cause hearing before the Nebraska Liquor Control Commission. I hope that answers your question. I noted on his criminal history, but I think he's proven over the course of time that he's a very responsible liquor licensee.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to testify on this item?
I
Being none?
move approval of items 4A and B.
Second.
Introduced by Christensen, seconded by Ward. Sorry. Please call the roll.
It's gonna be one of those nights, isn't it?
Yes.
I'm up first every time this year.
Job,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Raybold.
Yes.
Motion carried, 7-0. Next then are our public hearing resolutions. Item 5A is approving Amendment 1 to the interlocal agreement between the city and the State Game and Parks Commission to allow for construction of an additional storage building at the Chute Sports Complex located at Busalis Park.
Good evening, Lynn Johnson with Lincoln Parks and Recreation. The action before the City Council this evening is an amendment to an agreement that was established between the city and the Game and Parks Commission in 2012. The image that is on the Elmo unit is of the indoor shooting sports facility that the Game and Parks Commission constructed and manages on Busalis Park at North 44th Street and Superior Street. In this image, you can see the parking lot, the indoor shooting sports facility, the outdoor archery range that is also on that site. There is a storage building in this location currently, and the proposal is to add an additional storage unit that is 20 feet by 40 feet in a location that is just north of the indoor shooting sports facility. As I said, the original agreement was established in 2012. The Game and Parks Commission was responsible for construction of the improvements. They're also responsible for all the costs of operation and maintenance. That existing agreement extends through 2039, and the amendment would allow them to construct this storage building. It would be subject to the same terms as the original agreement. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have this evening.
Yes, Richard.
So this is just an amendment to the existing, to have this one facility?
That's exactly what it is, yes.
Any other questions for Lynn?
I do. At the end of the agreement in 2039, who will own the buildings?
We have the way the agreement is written is we have the opportunity to either renew the agreement with the Game and Parks Commission, or the city could choose to accept ownership of the buildings, or we could ask to have the buildings demolished at the Game and Parks Commission's expense, and then the site returned to its original condition.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Lynn. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to testify on this item? Okay, thank you very much. Teresa, we can go on.
All right, item 5B is approving the relinquishment agreement between the city and State Department of Transportation regarding the State Highway Link L-55W Warlick Boulevard to relinquish any further annual payments for highway maintenance by the state.
Good evening, Randy Hoskins, Lincoln Transportation and Utilities. What we have before you tonight is basically an agreement that started with the original agreement on the South Beltway and has continued through several additional amendments to that agreement. Basically, when the original agreement was signed, we said that we would take on Highway 2 and L55W, which is better known as 14th Street from Highway 2 down to Warlick, and then Warlick out to Highway 77. Both of those were agreed to as part of the original agreement. Then when we signed the third amendment to that agreement in 2017, we said at that point that we would actually take over L55W prior to beginning the construction on the 14th Warlick and Old Cheney project. And so if you recall, the state did reconstruct L55W here in the last couple of years, fixed the bridges up on there, and so at this point it makes sense for us to take it now so that we don't have to go through the whole permitting process with the 14th Warlick and Old Cheney project.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Hoskins? Do you have a question?
We were making annual payments? Yes, I do have a question, Madam Chair. I'm sorry.
Okay.
There was a yes or no question, wasn't it? And I
That's
kind
okay.
of went all over the place.
That's okay.
We were making annual payments to them? Help me understand.
All right. Since the city has been maintaining L55W within the city limits,
Yeah,
the state actually pays us
Okay.
to do certain maintenance on that route. And so things like street sweeping, snow removal, pothole patching, those sorts of things are all the city's responsibility. We're paid approximately $23,000 a year by the state to cover those sorts of things. And I would say that with the project that they've done, we'll probably have very minimal costs other than sweeping and snow removal over the next.
I saw that the other way around. I'm thinking, why are we paying them and we're doing them? Thank you.
Great idea to get rid of it.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
That's a good question for clarifying. Are there any other questions?
I just want to say thanks for all your leadership and all that you do. I mean, we served on a committee recently, and I really appreciate your leadership and your dedication to people in Lincoln. So thank you. You're very smart.
We're glad you're
They're laughing.
with the city.
What is going on?
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to testify on this item? Okay, let's go on.
All right, next then is item 5C, approving a contract between the city and Thompson Reuters for Law Department's monthly access to Westlaw Legal Research for a 4-year term.
Good evening. Jeff Kirkpatrick, City Attorney. This contract has to do with our research material. We have a long-term contract with LexisNexis, which provides us access to their legal database. We also subscribe to a number of volumes in different areas. In doing our annual review of those subscriptions, it occurred to us that we could get a different deal with Westlaw to give us access to electronic databases, which filled in those same gaps. So we negotiated with them, and the reason why we're in front of you tonight is because it's a 4-year deal. After we negotiated with them, we considered making it a 1-year deal. I thought the rate was so good, we wanted to lock it in as long as possible. So it's a 4-year deal, and that's why we're here. We're going to get more databases than we had paper access to before, and we saved a few $1,000s a year. So.
Are there any questions for Jeff? I do have one. I wasn't quite clear. It seems like it's under $500 a month for 15 attorneys to access it. Is that correct?
That sounds right, yes.
Okay, that sounds like a pretty good deal. Okay,
Yeah, and these are specialized databases. For example, McQuillan's, which is a municipal law treatise, which we like very much, and we didn't have access to when we lost Westlaw. Now we do. So, thank you.
terrific. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to testify on this item? Seeing none, let's move on.
All right, next is item 5D, amending the fiscal year 18-19, 23-24 capital improvement program to add the quarter-cent sales tax funding source and update the streets and highways project descriptions.
Welcome.
Good evening, Council. Chair Raybold, Lonnie Berkland with Lincoln Transportation and Utilities. We've got good news, I think. We're here tonight discussing and supporting what's before you in terms of a CIP amendment, and that's based on the fairly recent voter-approved quarter-cent sales tax initiative for street repairs. So just had a few notes on that to share with you this evening, and I've got Thomas Schaefer from our department as well to illustrate a couple things we've been working on. So as you recall, this Lincoln on the Move initiative really kind of got kicked off this last August. We had a media release and the announcement of the advisory committee on transportation members. We did a tour of city streets and had our initial meeting. We've since held a series of pretty detailed monthly meetings with that group discussing street conditions, lots of program data, construction practices, a lot of education on street rehab and even transportation system gaps that are in part of our growing community. So we've covered a lot of things, and of course project prioritization with our group as well. We've also held 5 community-wide public open house meetings in all quadrants of the city, including an additional one in the downtown to gather feedback from our citizens. We've developed and disseminated a public survey and online mapping tools that you're probably aware of as well. So folks at public meetings or in the comfort of their own homes could provide us some detailed responses on survey questions and also highlight streets that they'd like to see fixed. Through all of this work, the ACT group has made recommendations on this first construction season of projects. Our LTU department has in turn approved those recommendations. And a listing of these residential projects in each quadrant has been identified, in addition to 3 arterial street projects. And finally, I just want to make note that a brand new website has been developed by staff. They've been working hard, and really proud of that effort that's been ongoing. It's got a focus of transparency to better illustrate all the details of this new revenue source and information associated with the ACT group meetings and specific details on the individual projects that will be included as part of this CIP amendment. And with that, I'm going to let Thomas spend the last 90 seconds or less whipping through the website for you.
Good evening, thank you. So if you go to the lincoln.ne.gov website, one of the best ways that I've found to get to this is to go to the keyword search. You can just type in streets, and it'll take you to our Lincoln on the Move website there. We have frequently asked questions, so some of those questions that periodically come up from folks they can get. We have our public involvement tab that says we'll be having a public hearing here tonight. It also has the results of that survey that we had on there, and a listing of the streets. If you remember, there was places you could draw lines on a map, and this is kind of the hot spots that came out of that as well as our advisory committee meetings, upcoming meetings, past meetings are on here, along with the meeting materials on there. And then probably one that's most interesting, people are interested in, is the program tracking and the projects and timeline. So we'll have a program tracking page here that as funding comes in, we'll be able to track how much funding's coming in, where it's there, where it's going or programmed. We're gonna have a prioritized projects page with a map color-coded for what stage they're in. If you are interested in any one particular one, you can click on that right now. The existing streets looks like this, but unveiling tonight, we have a page that's in draft, so unpublished. So if people are trying to get to it and say, where did I see that? It's not there yet. We're working on the details, so this really quick is what we hope to have, which is project timeline. Hope to have a pie chart of the funding amounts on there, and then if you click on a particular project, it'll take you in more detail about that project itself, with maps and timeline and who to contact and the such. So that's why we're hoping to keep people informed on this, and we're really excited that we're hoping to not only do this for Lincoln on the Move, but for all of our projects and funding sources.
And we'll be available for questions, unless you have some now.
Any questions? Sandra, do you have a
I'm
question?
giving thumbs up.
Giving thumbs up. So again, the streets that were selected were based on discussions throughout the course of time from the advisory committee that really represented the different areas of the city. And they focused, and based on all the, I guess, the open houses, on the people that drew the line on their street that they felt needed repair, it came down to the streets that have been selected.
For 2020, a lot of the selection was what can we do very quickly. That doesn't mean there weren't other streets that aren't going to be considered for 2021 and 2022, but and beyond. But you know, you can't. Certain projects are not lend themselves to being put into a. I don't know if I should dance or not. Anyway, certain streets don't lend themselves to having project development in a scant 3-month time period. Others were more suitable candidates for that. And so that's really what we're trying to do, is get the money out there and put to good use right away. So the streets that we selected there had that sort of a criteria-heavy factor, is what can we get done and out for 2020. We'll have others, lots of others that we're going to be doing in 21 and 2 and 3 and 4. So more to come. Follow at the website. follow during the budgeting process, CIP, the whole works.
And if folks out there have questions, is there a place where they can send you their questions? Like, why isn't my street on there?
Absolutely. There's links on the site to do that. We've also, of course, got lots of our contact information, emails and telephone numbers, and they can sure contact us for any of those.
Terrific. Any thoughts, Tammy?
Yes, just one question. So the ACT committee, and maybe this is a question for Mr. DeKalb. There's another meeting in December, so I forget, and we've probably been told the function of that committee, how long they'll be working. Is there an opportunity for other citizens to become involved? I ask that because I'm curious, and also Councilman Shob and I were at Everett Neighborhood Association last week. They had submitted a name, recommended a name, and somehow that person in their association fell through the cracks, but was looking to be involved. So could you explain to us again the longevity of the ACT committee?
Yeah, so that's
Throughout the whole process?
That's a great question. Yes, we have a December meeting. We'll probably have a January and a February and a March and April. This is going to be a busy working group. We've tried not to wear folks out initially. They've done an awesome job. We've got a great group in that current membership, but the way that we talked initially, and Mike and Shannon Harner, who are co-chairs of that group, we've talked, and this is initially a 2-year membership stint. We'd love to keep some members on as we kind of rotate new folks in, so there's some of that history there. But yeah, I think we'll be kind of vetting out that process in coming months, and as we get probably a next lift of projects and a lot of that work done, we'll probably be able to focus a little bit more organizationally and how often, do we need to be having some of those meetings? Are they monthly? Are they every other month? But yeah, while we've kind of been burning the motors pretty hot and doing lots of great work with them, that will continue for, I would guess, sort of the next 6-8 month period past the next construction season. And then we'll be back before you, of course, with upcoming budget cycle to talk about next 2-year versions of those first 2 of the 6 years in the CIP with more projects and more public process. So it will be something that definitely lives on. But yes, there will be opportunity for additional folks to get involved.
Perfect. Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Richard?
Thank you so much. This is great to have this website for a lot of the transparency. People, roads affects them personally, and when it affects you personally, they want to know a lot and as much as they can. One quick question was, we approach the CIP coming up for the next season. It will be a 2-year CIP. Will projects be in the CIP, or will it just be funding?
So as you'll see, the current categories of projects: system preservation, optimization, new growth, our sidewalk program, beltway, things like that have traditionally been in the CIP will continue. We will have listings, and you'll see that detail in those categories of projects. We really felt the best way to get more detail and more of that transparent info. Sometimes the capital improvement program, the document itself, is a little bit probably more difficult and cumbersome to navigate, and so we felt that by highlighting these types of projects with a whole ton of detail on a website is a great way to illustrate that. So yes, they'll be referred to in the standard document that you're familiar with, but a whole lot more detail than we've probably been able to provide in the past will sort of live on the current Fluid website.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to testify on this item? I see Mr. DeKalb coming up, member of the Advisory Committee on Transportation.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike DeKalb. I was co-chair to the ACT committee. I'd just like to speak in support. We did vote on this, 14 members of the committee. It was unanimous support for both the local streets and the major arterials. I'd like to take the opportunity to commend staff for really supporting us really good, putting together some really nice packages. I think their outreach to the public with the town hall meetings, the heat map, and then they ran us through a bunch of exercises with a GIS system where we could look at the streets, they could pull up levels of, and ratings of traffic versus street conditions and other things, so we can compare streets. And ironically, or kind of crazy, we started off saying, let's follow the heat map, and then the answer was, well, that's not a scientific analysis of what the public wants, let's look at the data. And then we looked at the data and started running the numbers on the streets. They matched. Big surprise there. So staff did really good. The committee completely supports it, so there you go. Answer a question if I can, probably can't.
Any questions for Mr. DeKalb?
Not a question, just a comment. Madam Chair, I want to thank you, Mike, and your co-chair, Shannon Harner, and staff, and those everybody that worked really hard, because I know they did. I was at a couple of the open houses. I know my colleagues were at many of the open houses, and it's a big lift, a heavy lift, quickly done, and I know I look forward to the next years of watching it happen. And I know I've heard a lot from my district and other people in Lincoln, excited to see what happens with the quarter cent. So thank you very much for all of your leadership and your hard work.
I would echo the same. Madam Chairman, when I've been walking around or doing other things, people always say, and what's happening with the quarter cent? And it's going to be wonderful to be able to show them the website and tell them to go look up their streets.
Yep.
And having it right there in front of them is going to be wonderful. Thank you very much for all the work.
You're very welcome.
Please pass it on to the committee.
I have 2 points on that. One is people don't realize how expensive roads are. They think they can get a whole lot of roads done with that quarter cent, and you can't. But we prioritized. And the second thing was the committee did work very strongly on staff on transparency and how to track those pennies and dollars right down to the streets. And again, staff's done a wonderful job of doing that. You've got lots of ways of accessing from home and otherwise. So I think we did a good job. So thank you.
Yeah, Mike, I also want to say thank you very much for your service and the staff, but the rest of the people on that committee, because people ask me, who's keeping an eye on making sure those funds get spent on our streets, our residential streets primarily? And I said it's going to be the Advisory Committee on Transportation and your elected officials. So we're all working together to make sure that we optimize that quarter cent sales tax. And most importantly, we live up to the commitment so our constituents and residents see improvement. And we'd like to turn it around as quickly as possible, but it's a commitment to keep working at it. So thank you very much.
Just to throw this out there, Mr. DeKalb lives in Northeast Lincoln, and we're incredibly proud to have you. So thank you so much. You make us proud.
Meetings. Thank you.
Great. Is there anyone else that would like to testify on this item? Welcome.
Hi, my name is Robert Way. I live at 801 Elevado Avenue, Lincoln, Nebraska. I'll be brief. I just want to repeat everything absolutely everyone said. I had my questions about the quarter cent, but Mike and his team, and I know even people who were put on that advisory board had their questions about the quarter cent, but there's been a level of transparency and involvement in this project which I think advances people's relationship with their city government. People understand what's going on, then they're not resentful of having to pay taxes. So I think this is just a brilliant project. I think it was brilliantly led. It looks like the staff was also brilliant. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for testifying. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to make a comment on this item? Seeing none, let's move on.
All right, if not, we can move into the voting session. Item 5A is the amendment number 1 to the interlocal agreement with State Game and Parks, introduced by McGinnis.
So moved.
Second.
Introduced by McGinnis, second by Schob. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Schob,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Raybold.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 5B is the relinquishment agreement with State Department of Transportation regarding Warlick Boulevard, introduced by McGinnis.
So moved.
Second?
Introduced by McGinnis, seconded by Washington. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Schob,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Van Ginness,
Yes.
Raybold.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. 5C is a contract with Thompson Reuters, introduced by McGinnis.
So moved.
Second.
Introduced by McGinnis, seconded by Schob. Any discussion?
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney, for saving the city some money and providing additional tools.
Terrific. Any other discussion, comments? Please call the roll.
Schob,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Raybold.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. 5D is amending the capital improvement program to add the quarter-cent sales tax, introduced by McGinnis.
So moved.
Second.
Introduced by McGinnis, seconded by Christensen. Any discussion, comments?
This is a good thing.
This is a good thing. Any other comments? Please call the roll.
Schob,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Raybold.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Public hearing ordinance's second reading, we have none. So we can move into the voting session on ordinance's third reading. Item 7A is amending the pay schedule for the employee group whose classifications are assigned to the pay range, which is prefixed by the letter A, by changing the pay range of Class 1142 Utility Service Supervisor from an A11 to an A13, introduced by Christensen.
So moved.
Second.
Introduced by Christensen, seconded by Ward. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Schob,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Washington, Bowers,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Raybold.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. 7B is approving the Cotner and P Street redevelopment agreement, introduced by Christensen.
So moved.
Second.
Introduced by Christensen, seconded by Ward. Any discussion?
More housing.
More
Good
housing.
thing. This is a good thing.
It's a good thing.
That's his line.
You're welcome to use it.
Please call the roll.
Schob,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Raybold.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 7C is amending the fiscal year CIP to authorize and appropriate $3.9 million in TIP funds for the Cotner and P Street redevelopment project, introduced by Christensen.
So moved.
Second.
Introduced by Christensen, seconded by McGinnis. Please call, any discussion? Yes. Mr.
Thank you,
Schob.
Madam Chair. I'd like to, I know Mr. Marvin's not here. He gave us a lengthy explanation of TIF the last time around. It's still a little bit hard for the public to get his handles on it and where the public good comes from this. But I think we need to keep talking about that and make that continue to be part of our conversation. But at this point, I think this is a good project and we should move forward.
Terrific. Any other comments, discussion? Thank you. Please call the roll.
Schob,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Raybold.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 7D is approving the tax allocation bonds for Cotner and P Street, introduced by Christensen.
So moved.
Second.
Introduced by Christensen, seconded by Ward. Oh, I'm sorry, Washington. Sorry about that.
W word.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Schob,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Raybold.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 7E is pre-existing use permit 3AI, application of Austin Realty Investments for an amendment to the Gateway Shopping Center use permit. This is introduced by Christensen.
So moved.
Second.
Introduced by Christensen, seconded by Ward. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Schob,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Raybold.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Our resolutions on first reading are items 8A through E. Ordinances first reading, we just have one item, 9A. Our pending list date certain, we have 3 items that will come off for action next week. Our pending list are items 11A through B. Anyone wishing to address the council on a matter not on this agenda and not plan to appear on a future agenda may do so at this time, since it is an open mic night.
Hello, my name's Robert Way. My address is in the record. I stepped out, so I don't know if there was. I'll just skip that. We have seen, with our new leadership and with the leadership of the council, projects which advance transparency and understanding of government. The mayor has at this time about 55 mayoral boards which address different areas of concern within the city. Might it be of value, and this is just an idea I wanted to address to the whole council, to start another board which evaluates how TIF is being used in the city? Because that way we would increase communication. And I was told today by somebody who has years of experience that there's also a limit to the amount of money we're going to be able to TIF by state law. So this is a limited resource. And I should state for the record, because I might have said something in the thing. I understand that TIF does not give taxpayer money to developers. What it does, more accurate analogy, is it allows the tax credit to use our credit line, the city's credit line, because we know that money is supposed to be coming to the government. So, or that's my current understanding, is an evolving process. But I think bringing in citizens so these projects were better understood would increase people's relationship with the government, benefit, like we've seen in other projects.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wade. That sounds like a very reasonable idea. Is there anyone else that would like to speak at open mic? Each speaker has 5 minutes.
Come on up to the front row and sit down.
Yep. You can sit up in the front row, make yourself at home.
Two podiums, limited waiting.
Hello. My name is Jillian Christie. Would you like my personal address or the address of the business that I'm representing for the comments? Doesn't matter. Okay, then 801 Peace Street, Lincoln, Nebraska 68508. I'm here today as the store manager for 10,000 Villages, which is a nonprofit fair trade store located in the Haymarket. And I wanted to speak to you today regarding an issue that recently came to my attention, a proposal to install a bike L&K bike rent share dock on the curb directly in front of our storefront. Its proposed location would begin directly across from our business entrance and extend past our primary window display. As the store manager, I find this proposal extremely concerning for the viability and longevity of our nonprofit organization. And without taking up too much time, I'd like to go over my primary concerns with the proposal. I do have a that shows up.
It'll come up.
Okay. It is a representation of the proposed location on the sidewalk in front of our store. Primarily, my concerns relate to essentially the longevity of our business and our ability to succeed in our nonprofit mission. January through September or October, primarily most of our customer traffic is coming from out-of-towners that are walking by the street, and we rely upon our window displays as a main source of being able to communicate with them and attract them to our business. With the current plan location, one of my main concerns is that it would effectively shift the visual focus away from our visual displays into the bicycles that would be located in front of it. They would not be able to see past that new installation into our business. Secondly, we do also have a wonderful network of local musicians and performing groups that donate their time and talents to help us entertain customers throughout the year. Over the past 2 years, we've played around with their placement on various other sidewalk locations close to our business, but we have found time and again that we are most impactful when they are able to perform right out in front of our store. It helps create the attachment that they are performing with us. This is a world music, so it's a worldly store. Secondly, we do also have a wonderful network of local musicians and performing groups that donate their time and talents to help us entertain customers throughout the year. Over the past 2 years, we've played around with their placement on various other sidewalk locations close to our business, but we have found time and again that we are most impactful when they are able to perform right out in front of our store. It helps create the attachment that they are performing with us. This is a world music, so it's a worldly store. people are able to get a sense of who we are through their performances. And with the installation of the bike dock on that corner, we would lose the valuable space for engaging with the community. I do have a few photos of different performers that we have from the community as well. And finally, at present, there are no bike LNK docking stations located directly in front of any other retail establishments in town. There are a couple in front of other restaurant locations. However, I would argue that restaurant locations do not need to display their wares in the windows in order to attract people to come in and dine at their restaurant. In the past, when we have had construction on our surrounding sidewalk and intersection, we have noticed significant decreases to our sales without having another store come before us with a similar sort of situation. There's no way to compare what the impact will be to our business. I'm concerned that it is going to have more of a negative impact that we see with other sidewalk construction-related issues due to the decreased sidewalk pedestrian traffic space available due to the installation of the bike dock. But please understand that my concerns are not for myself, but for the underprivileged artisans that we partner with around the world. As a fair trade organization, our mission is to support them in developing countries all over the world by earning fair wages to bring their products and stories to our market through long-term fair trading relationships. So my primary concern is for them. With that, I'm willing to answer questions. I do know that I have a board member and my landlord who is also here to speak on the same issue today. So if you have any questions for me, otherwise I'll turn it over to them.
Are there any questions? We'd like to hear from the other speakers too. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kathy Court. I live at 2425 North Line Court here in Lincoln. And I've been a certified project manager for about 22 years with experience in change management as well as project management. I've earned an MBA and a PhD in human and organizational systems, so I'm just trying to establish my credentials here. I've recently retired as an assistant professor of practice in business, teaching ethics and social responsibility as well as project management. I moved to Lincoln about 6 years ago, and I've had the opportunity to live in several cities on the East Coast and in the Midwest. And even though my hometown will always have a special place in my heart, Lincoln has become my home. And I've always been proud of the way that the city conducts itself and makes decisions that impacts its citizens. However, in this case, some mistakes were made. As a new board member of 10,000 Villages, I participated in a meeting to discuss the location of the bike link rack directly across from our store. And I was startled by the bike link and the city's representatives' lack of understanding of our store or our store mission. 10,000 Villages is the key stakeholder in this. And there was no attempt to understand the needs or the reasoning behind the objections that we had. Excuse me. What I witnessed was an attempt to demonstrate why that location was the only one that could be used. A more constructive approach would have been to gather all of the stakeholders' objections. Goodwill is gained by trying to understand, not trying to be understood. And with that in mind, I just have a few questions. What is the demand other than the need to use grant money for the additional bike link location? And what is the cost of supplying the electricity to another site in the sector? And I conclude with this question. What is the value of the citizens' goodwill lost if the installation takes place over the objections of the 10,000 Villages family? And worse still, what if the installation does impede the success of this nonprofit organization? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, council members. My name is Jonathan Camp, address 808 P Street, Suite 200, Lincoln, Nebraska, 68508. I'll be brief. I know that you've all received materials outlining the majority of what we have to present tonight, including photographs of the various locations and some bulleted notes regarding why this location specifically is detrimental, as you've just previously heard, to 10,000 Villages business, but additionally also the historic Haymarket, preservation of the sightlines we have down there, and property interests due to that location. I have reached out as well to many city members and organizations that help represent both the businesses and the property owners down in the Haymarket and the downtown. I have received support from Lincoln Haymarket Development Corp., the Downtown Lincoln Association, Historic Preservation Commission, and Lincoln Electric System. What we are really asking for is that the council help us by reevaluating the location for this bike link dock station, which is going to be 1 block away from an existing location just down the street in front of Huddle, and 1 block down the street from another location in front of the Embassy Suites. We have presented additional locations and reasons why they could be efficiently located there. We are still unclear as to why the location must exist at 8th and P Street, other than it would cost too much to bring the electrical power needed for this station, which is not going to be a solar-powered station, as was part of the criteria, if you originally recall, as part of this. Yeah, here's the criteria in case, look at that. So if we are going to be utilizing Lincoln Electric System power grid, where's that electricity going to come from at the corner of 8th and P Street? And I asked LES this question, and the only electrical power that they know of at that location comes from the streetlight power grid. And if the city is planning on tapping the power grid to do so, then why can we not do that at a more feasible location? Again, some of these questions that we think should be asked and answered prior to the installation of this potentially detrimental location. These are some, down in the Haymarket, we do have other locations that are tapped from the lights. This is a very large socket, if you will, that the farmers market and other events utilize down in the historic Haymarket for events. So we know that we can obviously tap direct, into these power poles. On the location of the corner in question at 8th and P Street, the only other potential locations for splice boxes, as they're usually referred to, are this location here. This one more specifically is what has been looked at by the Bike Link and City Department of Transportation and Utilities. I had verification from LES that those are for this specifically. This is a fiber vault. This is a splice box for the streetlight grid. So the 2 locations that we had been looked at would be these 2 here. We have the location at out front of the Apothecary, and this is another location that would be vastly superior. Here's a better view of that location. That sidewalk is at least 1 to 8 feet wider than the
1 minute.
Than the location in front of 10,000 Villages at 8th and P Street. You have a streetlight power access. This concrete retaining wall is 35 feet in length. The bike dock station is 33 feet in length. You have more visibility for pedestrians and for bicyclists and for the public as a whole. It is maintained down. The bullet points are right here, so I won't eat up too much more time explaining them. Simply put, that location is vastly superior than, again, this location here, where we're contending with building fire exits, retail store frontage, retail business entrance, building the post indicator valve and fire department connection. This is really going to become a cluster of stuff and really detract from the historic Haymarket, obviously 10,000 Villages viability and ongoing business. So we would respectfully request that the city council take up this matter to review that location for a relocation of the bike dock station.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Any questions? Next testifier? No?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to testify at open mic tonight? Mr. Christensen?
Madam Chair, seeing no one, I'd like to encourage everyone, while we're enjoying our Thanksgiving holiday, to remember the golden rule. I move for adjournment.
Move for adjournment by Christensen, seconded by McGinnis. Please call the roll.
Schob,
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Christensen.
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Raybold.
Yes,
Motion carried, 7-0.
we are adjourned. Everyone have a safe Thanksgiving.